Hi, I'm Dom.
Hi, I'm Nasreen.
Welcome to Conversation With. Today we'll be talking to a local drama teacher about their experiences of mental health in secondary schools. Please introduce yourself.
I'm Andy, I'm a head of drama at the local secondary school, and I'm just here to chat about my experiences as a teacher.
How has your experience changed with mental health in schools over time?
How's my experience changed over time? So I've been teaching for about a decade now, so for about 10 years. I would say it actually seems to have got better for me. I think that one of the big things that stood out for me was when lockdown happened through COVID, there was this immensely traumatic experience that happened for the whole country, and that really impacted the young people in the schools dramatically. So it's like what we saw actually in the schools, an enormous surge in mental health challenges that came out of that time period, that being trapped at home, being stuck at home with parents, the variety of situations different students come from. So some students maybe were in abusive homes, so they were trapped in that abusive home. Some students had incredibly supportive parents who paid for extra online tuition, so they excelled, and everyone had such varied experiences from the entire spectrum. So when we came back into the schools, we saw a massive surge in the need for mental health support. So actually I think the mental health support is getting better. I think it's a little bit overwhelmed at times, but I do think schools are putting the priority on it in a fantastic way now that's really improving how we are dealing with the young people and supporting them.
And what are some of those ways that you guys are supporting people with mental health issues, or people who have low mental health or anything like that?
I think that it fundamentally comes down from getting to know the students. I think that it's always been there, but it's pushed more and more and more to know your students, to know them better. Even over lockdown, I remember as a form tutor, I had to call home for everyone within my form group to check in on them, ask key questions, and that's something that form tutors wouldn't necessarily have to do beforehand. So suddenly, because of lockdown, every form tutor had spoken to every child's parents and to every child, and they just knew these kids so much better, and then they came back to school, and so just naturally across the entire school, not just those who are hired to be safeguarding team, everyone had more of a personal input into these young people's lives. So it's about knowing the kids, as I say. It's about then putting things in place. So there's amazing software that has been designed for schools now, where whenever a student comes to you with what we call a disclosure, which is where they could be telling you that a loved one has passed away, they could tell you that they're just feeling sad, they could tell you they're having really dark thoughts, anything that they come to you, you can put onto the system, which creates transparency in the school, which is also very important for safeguarding young people. But it goes into the system and it logs on that child, like what they're going through. It flags the kids that need extra support, kids that might need counselling, kids that need anything. And actually, because of this software that's been brought in quite recently, actually in the last 5 years or so, we see this massive surge in understanding for each of the kids' needs.
Do you have experience of supporting students within the classrooms, say if you've noticed changes in them, such as being anxious or more withdrawn or being more down or just being quiet? Do you have experience of supporting them in that way?
Lots of experience with that. I love the fact that I'm a drama teacher. So during my career, I've taught drama, dance, and music, all of them creative subjects. And something beautiful about them is because they're so expressive, kids feel that they often feel that they can talk to you. We often touch on more serious topics within the lessons. We try not to go too deep with it in the lesson because it can trigger things for young people. But opening conversations within the lessons makes them realise that you might be someone that they could talk to about this. So often every couple of weeks I'll have someone come to talk to me about something that's going on in their life. It's a privilege that I get to be that support for them. We have this thing where anyone who's been taught by me, when I do the register, I don't just do the normal register. I don't get them to go, here sir, I get them to give me a number between 1 and 10. 10 being they're in the best mood they could possibly be, 1 they're in the worst mood they've ever been, 5 is completely average. And every kid's different. Some kids will say 1 every single week, and you actually just have to listen to how they say the number 1 rather than actually what they're saying. Some kids will say 5 every week, and then 1 week they'll say 2. And if you know the kids, as I keep saying, if you know these kids, you'll go, that's something to stand out. This kid suddenly said a much lower number than they usually said. With my form in particular, there's certain kids I listen out for who I know take their register number very seriously. And I know if they say a number below 3, I need to go over to them and ask them if they need a chat at break time or something. And they often do. They just come along to have a little chat to find out what's going on. So I see it through asking, but also you can tell in the children's mood, depending on their character. Some of them might get very angry when they're upset, kind of thing, and you can see this, like these funny, cheeky, chappy kids, and then one lesson that cheekiness becomes more anger and like standoffish, and like just reading that and understanding who they are as a person, and that they're not, that it's unusual for them to act out in that way, allows you to like press in, just have that conversation. Because honestly, if you go up to a kid and get them on their own so they're not like surrounded by their mates, and just go, is everything okay? Like more often than not, they'll tell you if there's something wrong.
You talked about having young people speak about how they feel, with the numbers and all that kind of stuff. For any young people listening, how would you say to be confident in that aspect, in that regard, to talking to teachers? Because I know a lot of young people don't find it easy to talk about their issues and stuff that's happening at home or in other situations. So what kind of advice would you give to them?
I would say my understanding of teenagers, and I talk to them, they think everyone is watching them. You will think, there's teenagers at home, you think everyone is watching you and is taking in everything that you do and everything that you say. And I'm going to say something that sounds almost negative, but it's actually quite empowering. Teenagers, they don't care about anyone except themselves. This is something that really stands out to me. It's like at that age, you're in your cognitive development, your whole world is yourself. Now, they might giggle or laugh at something that happens in a lesson, but I promise you they will have forgotten about it by the time they leave the room, because that thing that was said, that number that was said, for example, if a kid says 1, the kids in their classroom might go, oh, that's a low number, but then they'll forget about it straight after because it's not about them. So if you're nervous because you think people might watch you, don't be nervous, because do you know what? They're going to forget about it immediately, and actually your mental health is far more important. Honestly, every teacher I've ever met, you do not go into teaching to make lots of money. You don't go into teaching to become famous. You don't go into teaching to become well known. You don't go into teaching to give detentions to young people because you get a power trip off it. Every teacher has gone into teaching because they genuinely care about young people. So even the teacher that might seem completely terrible with people, terrible with young people, and gets very angry at the classes, they're still there because they care about young people and they care about their subject. So even if you went to a teacher that you thought hated you, if you went with your heart open and said, please can you help me with this issue, every teacher that I know of would give that time to help you. So think how much more a teacher that you feel actually cares about you, who you trust a little bit more, how much more they will show care to you. So 1, don't worry about what people are going to say, because as I say, they will forget. And number 2, remember that those teachers genuinely care about your well-being and you achieving.